Hi everybody, how you doing today? Well, today this video is going to be about getting sharper pictures out of the Panasonic FZ300. And also this will apply to the other bridge cameras in the Panasonic line. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you an update on my P mode, my program mode, and this could be version 2.0. And I have a video for you, a tutorial, and it will show you how to update my settings. And it's just a starting point. Remember, each one of you have your own unique style, but this is just a starting point for you to work off of. But this is what I use in my camera. These are the settings that I use on my program mode. And after I get done showing you how to do this and we'll get it programmed in, then I'm going to take you to a part of the camera that we haven't been to, and that is the shutter priority mode. So right now we'll start this video. I'm going to take you to the menu in the program mode. Make sure you're in the program mode, which is up on this dial up here. Yeah, I know. Let's see if we can't pull that back a little bit. Alright. So yeah, you're going to change it up here into the P mode, okay? And then you're going to come down here and you're going to press this one, the center button right here. And that's going to take you into, hang on there, get back to page 1. And as you know, the first, now how I do it is, these are chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4, and chapter 5. We won't be getting into chapter 5 because that's for raw processing, okay? So we're going to go back to chapter 1, and you're going to come over here to photo style. And I have changed some of the settings on my photo style. Like I said, this is going to be version 2.0, we'll call it. And you're going to click on that. As you can see, it says custom standard, and then you have your contrast, your sharpening, your noise reduction, and your saturation. Now, as you know, I've come back on the sharpening to +3, noise reduction -2, and saturation +2. This is what I have my camera set up for. Okay? Once you get that set, you just push that and it takes you right back to the menu again. So we're going to go down and make sure that you guys are pretty much where I am, at least to start this. This video is going to consist of me giving you sharper pictures. I had a subscriber saying that she's taken, or my subscriber's taken over 1,000 pictures and hardly any of them are sharp. And sometimes when we get a new camera and we want to take pictures, we get excited. And even though this has 5 stops built into it for any shake, I am going to get you a little better than 5 stops by raising your shutter speed up. The first thing we have to do is make sure that your program mode is set up, and then we're going to lock it into place and put it in the custom setup 1. Okay, so here we go. We're going to go right down. Filter settings, I have no effect. Now remember, this is page 1 over here, right here, and we got 7 pages to go through. So we're going to try to do this as quick as possible. My aspect ratio, I do at 4.3, which gives the highest 12 megapixel format for this camera. If you shoot it in 16:9, it will give you 9 megapixels, okay? And you'll see it. It'll be down here, and in 16:9 it'll say 9 megapixels in that area right there. Quality, I shoot JPEG fine, which is at the top one, okay? So click on that. Now we're going to go to page 2. This is autofocus single, and this is your lever right here. You have autofocus single, autofocus continuous, and then you've got manual focusing. When I'm out shooting insects or birds or animals or anything that is kind of moving, I usually use autofocus continuous. That's this one right here. Okay? Autofocus continuous is what I use. So, continuing on, my meter mode, I use the center. That works the best. I've tried both and I found that the center gives better results. Burst rate, I always tell you I use medium, even though there's high and super high, as long as you're shooting JPEG. Because once you go to RAW or RAW and JPEG, you're going to lose the super high. But fair warning, when you start shooting this, there's going to be 2-second burst, a very high frame rate, and your camera's going to start warming up. That's right. Even in high, she'll get a little warm, and if it's extremely hot outside, I have always shot in medium. I've always got all my good pictures in medium. You know, it's a choice. You can either choose high or super high, and you know, I've showed you a video on overheating, and it happens. You know, if you take a lot of pictures at a time, it's going to overheat, just like any camera will. So I suggest you leave it in medium for now and work with that, and you'll be amazed at the photos that you'll get in medium. Okay? 4K photo mode, I have it at the very top one. It's 4K burst. You have pre-shutter at start, meaning when you press the button, it's actually recording ahead of time, I guess. Auto record oh no, this one records ahead of time. That one just uses the shutter button, and this one also uses shutter button, but you can set up burst or while the shutter's pressed. It'll keep shooting while the shutter is pressed, and that's the way I like it. So yeah, we're at the 4K photo burst. Now we're going to drop down to auto bracket. I do not use this, so we're going to keep right going. Self timer, I leave it at 10. You have options in there. You can go and look. Highlight shadow, I don't use. This is what I've changed. iDynamic has auto, high, standard, and low. I tried it in auto, and it doesn't work out very well at all. Tried it in high, it's too much contrast. Standard was too much, but when I got to low, that seemed to work good. If you notice in my custom photo setting, I have no contrast set up there at all. It's just 0. I used to keep it at I think 3 or 4, but I found using this iDynamic works well on low. So that's my take. Eye resolution, I use extended. You can go to high, standard, or low. I like extended. It seems to work best for me. Post focus, I leave that off. HDR, I leave off. I leave the multiple exposures off. And I leave this one off. And now on to the next page. This I don't mess with. Shutter type. Now you can do auto, mechanical, electronic. I've done electronic, and I've had, since most of my subjects are moving, I've had bent wings, bent trees, and, well, if you read up on it, you'll know what I mean. So I leave it mechanical for now, okay? Flash I don't mess with. Red eye removal I don't mess with. On to page 6. Here I used to set this at 100. I am now setting it at 400, is at least the ISO limit set in the program mode. I used to leave it at 200, but I leave it at 400 now. I'm finding that this camera will shoot great pictures even at a 400 ISO. As long as it's pretty clear out with some clouds, you're good to go. And I'll be showing you some of the pictures that I've taken and some of the ISOs that I have seen at 2500 shutter speeds. So onward we go. I keep the ISO increments at 1/3 because I want a more of a little finite settings. That's how I do it. You can set it at 1 EV or 1/3. I suggest 1/3 because going a whole stop is just too much. Diffraction compensation, I leave it in auto. iZone, I leave off all the time. I don't take any more pictures with the iZone because I can crop in better and get better results using the optical than using that iZone. But it's preference, okay? Digital zoom, I leave off. You know, unless you're on a tripod, I wouldn't even attempt that. And you're not going to be very pleased unless it's extremely bright out. And maybe you're doing a faraway landscape scene or something like that on a tripod. Maybe. But later this fall, I will be getting into scenic landscape photos on a tripod and also handheld. So I'm looking forward to that. I leave that off. I leave the RGB color space in RGB. You can do a Adobe. I don't have Adobe, so I leave it in RGB. Stabilizers, standard. I leave it in the top one. And that's where I leave that. I leave this off. I leave it off, and we're done with the first chapter. Now we're going to go to the second chapter. And of course, this is going to be the same setup as what you already have in the first one. This is like for the movie. Okay? You won't have to do anything here. Filter settings, I leave off. I leave Snap Movie off. I record MP4 because I do 4K 30 frames a second in 100 megabytes. This is, of course, your setting up here where you leave it in autofocus or autofocus continuous. But when you're in autofocus, you can put it in autofocus AF. I'm not sure what the other F is for. It's for minute movements. AFS is just a regular autofocus, but the AFF is for minute movements. Meaning if the subject just moves a little bit or something, you can try it and see what you think. Picture mode, I leave in the camera. I do not leave it in the video because I want to be able to control the picture settings from my photo settings. Continuous focus, I leave on to page 3. Meter mode, same thing. It should, whatever you have in this top one here will usually reflect into the video. Okay. Just like the meter mode, it's in the center, just like we set up in the first one. I don't use highlight shadows, and the eye dynamic I leave in low, the eye resolution extended, auto for the diffraction. I leave the eye zoom off. I leave the digital zoom off because I don't use that anymore. At least not for the style of shooting that I'm doing. Flicker decrease. Since I'm running 4K, I set it up for 1/60th of a second. There are options in there. You can do whatever you want. When you go into the high speed, then you're going to want to move that up a little bit to match your. If you're shooting 240 frames a second, you're going to want 120th, and so forth. Anyway. Mic, I have my mic on because I use an external mic most of the time. I got it at +3 dB. My mic level limiter is on. My wind noise canceller is off because I use a shotgun mic with a wind muff, and so forth. And that's the end of the second chapter. Let's keep going. Next one. Now, This custom memory set we're going to come back to, okay? Silent mode off. If you put it to silent mode, it will automatically put that camera into electronic shutter. Just so you know. These are all standard. I don't mess with these. They're standard when you get the camera. Page 2, everything on here. Quick autofocus on. Eye sensor autofocus is on. I also put it, which one is it? The pinpoint AF time is when you're doing, I would leave it in short. If you're doing the one focus point on the far right of your focus point choices. Anyway, that's where I leave it, and that's how it comes from the camera. Assist lamp I do leave on for in case I'm in a low light situation. The camera can focus. I leave the direct focus area off because if you have this lens facing this way and you want to look through your eye thing, your nose is going to touch the screen, and then it's going to take the direct focus and put it wherever your nose touches. That's why I leave that off. I don't rarely use the screen. I always use the eye. Alright, I leave that in release. Autofocus plus manual focus, you could leave it on or off. I leave mine off. I haven't done any manual focus yet. Manual focus assist, of course, is this wheel over here on this side of the camera. Okay, that's what it's showing. When you see the spar of the wheel facing this direction, that's showing you that it's this wheel on the side of the lens. I leave that pip. The manual guide I leave on. I leave peaking on, so when you're in manual focus, you can see how sharp things are. Histogram I leave off. I don't use it. I used to use it, but I don't anymore. Grid lines, you could leave those on. Those are the grid lines in your camera to show you kind of where to set up. I don't use those. I've been shooting long enough that I kind of know where it's got to be. Center marker is always on mine. Highlight is off. Let's talk about that zebra. Zebra 1, as you can see, I have it set for 105. Because if you're out there and you start seeing zebras in the highlights, I leave mine at 105 because if you start seeing the highlights with little zebras in them, it's telling you it's too much. Now, one thing I can tell you, when you're shooting and you see zebras in the clouds, you're always going to have some in the clouds, okay? If you're shooting white flowers or maybe even yellow bright flowers or even leaves with little white, you may see some of that zebra in it, but you should see very, very little, okay? I mean like extremely little. Yeah, so you could play around with this, and then you could also use the Zebra 2, which is 100%. I used to use this, but I liked 105 because it gets me really close where I can finite the highlights. Alright, let's get out of that. I leave this off, the monochrome, the constant preview off, exposure meter on, the dial guide on. There's different, you can do solid with no information. I like my information in my thing, so I leave it there. Same with that one. Modern info display, you can turn it on or off. I leave mine on so I can see what I'm shooting at, what my ISO is, or my shutter speed, or my aperture. Record area, I use the camera as a record area. You can use your movie if I like the camera because I can use some of my camera settings. Never had to use that. Auto review I don't mess with. Don't mess with any of that. Zoom lever. There's two settings. This one and this one. You want this one. Because even though it's showing when you tap that, when you tap your shutter, your zoom up here in the front, every time you tap it, it'll go one of those notches. So you tap it, goes one notch, two notches. It'll go to certain settings on the camera. But if you hold it to the right or hold it over, it will also zoom out automatically without stopping at those little stops. So that's why I use that. Alright, side lever the same. Resume off. We're almost done with this. Video button on. Eye sensor I keep in low. Okay, just so you know, low. If you leave it in high, even if you rub your hand across it, it'll just come on and use more battery power. Touch settings, they're in the standard, except for I leave the other one off. Touch scroll is L. Like I say, I don't even touch these. I just leave whatever the camera come with. Alright, we're back to 1, but we're going down one more because we have to live view mode 30, monitor display, which you can adjust your brightness, you can adjust your contrast, even the color code of how your monitor looks, your blues, your reds, and your greens. I don't mess with it because I've gotten used to it. I know what I need to shoot at. But so when you set this, be careful because it may not be accurate to what you're coming out of your camera. You'll have to play with it, okay? That's how you learn. Luminous, I need an automatic, or you can put it on 1 and it'll just max it out all the time, especially if you're out in bright sunlight or something like that. Okay? So anyway, I leave mine in auto because I'm looking through the eyepiece 95% of the time. Economy, right now I got it set up for sleep mode, but I usually set the sleep mode for 2 minutes, and I set the auto live, either this or this, to shut off in 1 minute. And then if you want it to resume back on, all you gotta do is touch that shutter button just one time. Hit it once or twice, and first time it'll come on, the second time will show you all the information, and you're ready to go. You're just ready to shoot. So that's how I do mine. Okay. That's it for that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take you to shutter priority. This is the new one. This is the one that's going to give you sharper pictures, and for a lot of you out there having difficulty getting sharp pictures. So here we go. Oh, before we go, we also need to make sure that you have the custom one focus point set up. Okay, when you get to this, you're just gonna it won't say this when you go to set it up. It'll say free. Okay, but I have a video just on the custom focus point. Go to that one. It'll show you exactly how to set that up. Okay, so we're going to go to shutter now. Shutter priority. And we're going to go to the menu. And as you can see, what you have on the custom one setting is pretty much what you're going to have in the shutter. It's the same. It should be the same as long as it's on custom one. Let's take a peek. We'll see if it's on custom one. Oops. And as you can see right here, it says C1. That's your custom one setting, okay? And there's one thing you're going to do to change when you get into shutter priority, which is right here, okay? Let me show you. You're not going to do anything here because all this is the same as what you already got programmed in the program mode. You're going to come down, keep going, and you're going to come to the ISO limit, okay, which is 400. But you're gonna move. You'll leave the ISO at 400. We don't have to change anything here. I'm sorry, I was thinking something else. My apology. So get out of this. And now since you're in shutter priority, this wheel right here is going to set your shutter speed, okay? Right now you can see it's at 800, 640. That's your shutter speed, okay? You're going to set this shutter speed. And this is the only knob you're going to have to touch at 800 to start out with, okay? That's going to help you sharpen your pictures up. I have shot this camera at 1000. I've shot it at 1300, 1600, and even 2500. I wouldn't take it so much far as that. When I was trying to catch birds, after 2000 it gets too ISO-ish, if you know what I mean. So yeah, you can either set this for 1000 or 800. I would set it for 800 and let the camera do the aperture. Now you're going to see that a lot of times the camera's going to switch down to 2.8. It's okay. This camera does very well at an aperture setting of 2.8. So we're going to repeat this again. You're going to go from, you're going to set this for 800 on your shutter speed. Then you're going to hit your back out, and now you're back here. Now everything should be set up there. Your focus point should be there, and it is. I have it in medium burst rate, and the only difference is when you go back to program. Let's go back to program. You're going to be, it should be at 400 now. Yeah, so you're good. Okay, so that's the only thing different you got to do. Everything's already set up in program and custom 1, which you're here. You're at custom 1, okay? You're just going to move to the shutter priority, okay? And then you're going to make sure that that is set at 800. You know, when you get off the other one, it'll be like 400. It'll show 400, right? Just make sure that you move this to 800. And I promise you, you're going to get sharper pictures. Promise. Just make sure that, you know, you got plenty of light out there. You're going to have few clouds in the sky. If it comes to really overcast, you will have to lower the shutter speed down. That'll open, you know, that'll give you lower ISOs, okay? Because once you go over 640 on the ISO, that's when it starts to get really, really noticeable. That's what I found out. So, set your shutter speed up for 800. Everything else is already set up for you, as long as you're in custom 1. That's it. That's all there is. Give it a shot. Tell me what you think. I think you're going to come out with better results, sharper pictures, and don't be afraid to go up. If for some reason you press that shutter button, let me show you here. I'll probably do it here. See how it turns red? It's because your shutter speed is too high. Okay? Your shutter speed is too high. But that won't happen. It's only dark in here. That's the reason it's doing it. So you can take this up a little higher, as long as it doesn't flash red. 1000, 1300, 1600 works really well for my insects. Even 1300 does, and 800 does too. It just depends on how fast. If you want to stop the wings, you're looking at least well over 2000. If you want to stop wings on a bee, which would be pretty hard to do with this one. Anyway, try 800. You're going to be extremely happy. I hope I explained it to you good enough. If I didn't, please let me know, okay? Thanks, everybody. You may have a Alrighty, now we got all this. Now I'm going to have you turn your selector knob here I'm sorry, I'm going to bring it down here a little bit more. Your selector knob right here to the program mode. Okay. And once you get in this position, now we're going to go back to the custom memory settings. So you're going to click on menu, and you're going to go to chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, and you're going to see custom set memory. Okay. And what you do is you're going to click on that, and you're going to either do C1 or C2. I just do C1 for the program, so I know that this is in the program mode. And you're going to say yes. There. Now the program mode is all set up. Every time you turn the camera on, it'll be in the same position you left or you set it up as when you originally did. Now if you want to change something in there, say you want to go over here and you want to change your ISO limit, you'll have to change this. Then you'll come back, go down to chapter 3, back over to custom memory, and then you're going to say program me, say yes, and it'll set it for whatever one you have it at. It'll set it for that. So every time you click the camera on, say you left off at shutter priority and you go back to the program mode, everything will be there for you. Okay? So once you get that set, now you'll back out, and then you're going to go to shutter priority mode. And wherever you left off at 800 on your shutter priority, everything else is already in there. It's, the focus point's already there. Your photo settings are already there, because as you can see, you're in C1 right here. Right there, C1. The only thing that you will have to do in this shutter priority is just change the shutter speed and go back and forth. Remember, if it turns red, you'll have to lower the shutter speed because your camera is just it's not enough light, is what it's saying. Okay. Anyway, I would start at 800 and then gradually work your way up. If you're trying to do, I really don't know how much it takes to stop an animal, but I would think that 800 on shutter speed will definitely stop an animal. Okay? Now I'm not 100% sure because I haven't shot a deer or a bear or an elk. You know, you may have to move it up. And if it's a beautiful day, you can. You will have no problem moving this up. I mean the shutter speed. I have ran it at 2500, but that's on a gorgeous and beautiful day. Okay. So anyway, I would go 2500 to 800. You can even try 640, 500. You got all kinds of shutter speeds to try here. Okay. So I would start at 800. And also, there's one other valuable thing you need to do when we need to move the the ISO setting. You need to put the ISO setting in the auto. Okay? And how you do that is with this knob right here at the top. Just move it over if you want. That locks it in at 100 ISO, increments. It'll lock it in that. And as you can see, we're already set at 400. Now this is in the program mode. That's ISO. Remember that. Now I have moved my ISO to even 800 when I'm in the shutter priority. But for now, leave it at 400. Try that, see how it works out for you. So yeah, once you just put it in auto, okay, and then get out of this, And that auto will stay there, because when you go to program mode, if you look, it should be an ISO 2, so that you know that your ISO can creep to 400, but very rarely does it. The camera keeps a good job of keeping that ISO at 100, maybe 250, and that's well in the bounds of this camera. As you can see, everybody, the wind's blowing pretty good today, so it's a good day for shutter priority. You're going to check your shutter, your ISO, and your aperture settings. You'd be surprised. A lot of the aperture settings are at 2.8, and your ISOs are at 100. So, of course, these pictures go from shutter speed of 500 to 2000. So check them out, and all the rest of the remaining pictures will be in the upper left-hand corner. So yeah, have a beautiful day and enjoy. Subscribe, like, and share. And thank you, my subscribers, for being so awesome.